In this video, we'll compare Warp AI and Windsurf. We'll have 4 real-world scenarios, and we'll test how both of them do with these scenarios. For each tool, I'm gonna use the default model. So for Warp, the default model is Auto, which is their implementation, I guess. And for Windsurf, it's SWE1. The reason for using these default selections is because I want to see how these tools, their implementation of AI, do with these real-world scenarios and not a specific model like O3, for example. So we have 5 real-world use cases, which are as follows. We'll ask the AI to describe the project and the technologies used. Then we will ask the AI to start the project. Then we'll switch to another project and ask AI to fix an issue. Then we'll ask AI what can be improved in a project. And lastly, we'll ask the AI to build a landing page for an app. So let's start. For this test, we'll use multiple repositories. For the first use case is the Learn platform, which is an app I built for courses. So let's start with the first use case. And before we start, we have to switch to the agent mode in Warp AI. The agent mode is the mode that allows you to talk with Warp in plain English. So let's compare the two outputs. As we can see, the Windsurf one is more comprehensive. It has not necessarily more information, but is more descriptive. For example, the technologies are categorized by their type, like framework, build tool, runtime, and so on. Warp does this as well, but it's not as nicely structured. For example, you can see this Vite as the build tool, UI components, but in Windsurf, you can see that it's the type first and then the technology. Also, the output is a bit too verbose, so for my liking, Warp takes the first spot. This is highly subjective and it's not a clear winner. You might like this output, you might like this one, but personally, I prefer the information, the output, to be more to the point. Now let's go to the second scenario, which is to start the project. It's not very difficult to start, but not the easiest as well, so let's see how they both do. So I think Warp stopped because it identified that we need 2 separate terminal windows since they both need to run simultaneously. So let's see if it can do that. And the project is running. Both the server, which is in this file, and the client run. Ideally, I would like for this to work in the same window, or at least if that's not possible, to open a new window for myself and run the remaining commands. But so far so good. Now let's try Windsurf. So Windsurf did exactly what I expected Warp to do, to run the client and the server in the same window. As you can see, the client is running in this terminal, and then the server is running as well here, and then it tells me the URL for the client and the URL for the backend. So I'd say in this case Windsurf takes the first place. Now let's move to the third use case. We'll rearrange the tasks a bit and we'll continue with this prompt, because after this one we'll switch to another repository. So let's go to Warp. Let's go one directory back from the client. Let's clear the terminal and let's run this prompt. Okay, so Warp finished. Let's give the same prompt to Windsurf and then we'll compare the outputs afterwards. Windsurf is done as well, and the first thing you can see is that it gives us not necessarily more suggestions, but more categories. And as you can see, most of these categories have 2 or 3 points compared to Warp AI, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for each point. So let's see some of the suggestions. So I've confirmed several areas that need improvement. So first of all, it suggests improvements for the environment setup. Fair enough. We have 5 bullet points. And then documentation improvements. We have lots of bullet points as well. Project structure optimization, CI/CD enhancement, testing infrastructure, code quality tools, monitoring and observability, security improvements, development experience, performance optimization. So these are really good suggestions, and there are quite a few. And then let's look over the suggestions from Windsurf. Project structure and organization. We have just 2 bullet points: development experience, testing, performance, security, documentation, CI/CD, error handling and monitoring, dependencies, front-end specific, back-end specific, developer experience. So at the first sight, it might look like Windsurf gave more suggestions and maybe even better ones. But if you look at it carefully, you'll see suggestions like you're using Prisma, which is good, and sure, you have proper migration strategies, not necessarily vague, but not super useful. And also there are very few bullet points for each category. In my opinion, I'd say that Warp AI takes the first spot for this test. And the reason is because each category is more comprehensive and more to the point, to say so. Now let's change the repository for the fourth use case. This repository represents my personal blog theme, and this fourth task will hopefully help me fix the issue. This is the fourth task. Let's copy the prompt and let's go to Warp AI. Let's paste it. Actually, first we need to run a command to get the error. And we already have the prompt from Warp, so let's just click that. So I had to stop Warp because it's not getting anywhere, and I'll explain later why. So let's try with Windsurf now. Let's run the same command. Let's see if we can easily add this to the AI chat. And the prompt was, help me fix the issue. Let's see if the new changes work. So let's scan the theme again. And you can see we still have an error. So let's see if it can solve that as well. It finished again. So let's see if it solved all the errors. It shows that there are no errors, which is good. But as you can see, your theme is compatible with Ghost 3.x, and the latest Ghost version is 5, so I'm not sure this is the right solution. For me, the right solution would have been to update the theme to Ghost 5. We can say it's a partial win because it made the errors disappear, but it's not the right solution in my view. And also, it's a lot slower than Warp. Let's also see what Warp did, because it tried to solve all the errors in the theme, not only that, which can be a good or a bad thing depending how you look at it. But we can say the Windsurf has a slight edge in this case. And if we reset the changes and try again, let's see what happens. This time let's copy the output and let's write the prompt ourselves. So help me fix the issue in my site. Let's see how it does now. Warp seems to overdo stuff and it doesn't get to the issue I'm asking to solve. So like I said, we'll consider this a partial win for Windsurf. Even though it's not the optimal solution, it got rid of the errors without doing hacky stuff. So that's the winner for this task. The last task is to implement a landing page for an app that keeps people accountable, named accountability. But let's change it to accountability, just to be more funny. So let's do that. So Warp failed at this task. It just created the barebone app, but it didn't style it or anything. And as we can see, Windsurf is struggling as well. And I suppose AI struggle a lot to create applications from scratch. So let's try once again. Let's stop this. And let's accept all. Then go back and copy the task. And let's try again. Let's see if this time they can build the application. Okay, it seems that Warp finished the landing page, so let's open it and see how it looks. And we have an error. Let's just tell the AI what the issue is. Fix this issue. Let's open a new tab and let's say fix this issue. Okay, so it seems Warp can figure the error, so let's try to run the project and see if it works. Nope, this one doesn't work either. Let's try the other one. Yep, none work. So we can assume both Windsurf and Warp failed this task. I'm gonna give them one more chance, asking them to build a simple landing page with HTML and CSS, because I see they're not able to build an app like a complex app from scratch. So let's get away from this folder, let's clear the output and let's add with HTML and CSS only. Let's see what it does. Let's do the same thing in Windsurf, new window. Okay, the task is done. I mean, Warp finished it. We won't run this command because I don't have Python installed or anything like that. So let's manually open it. This is the landing page built by Warp. It's a pretty simple and standard page. We have a hero, navigation, some features, how accountability works, success stories, pricing, and CTA. Pretty simple, but at least it did the job. Let's see if Windsurf finished, and it didn't. For some reason it's stuck at this step, and I leave it just for a bit, and if it doesn't finish I'll stop it. Okay, it seems that Windsurf can't create the landing page for some reason. I keep getting this cascade error and it just doesn't do anything. So we can say that Warp won this task. So let's revisit the tasks, and we can say that here for the first task I incline to go with Warp because I like its output more. So this is one for Warp. Starting the project, that's clearly a win for Windsurf. This one is a partial win for Windsurf as well. The next one, what can be improved in the project? I like Warp more, but maybe we can give it half a point as well. And for the last task, Warp takes the win because it was able to create a landing page and finish the task. And for the last task, Warp takes the win because it was able to build a landing page. So we have 1 point for Warp here, 1 for Windsurf, half a point for Windsurf, half a point for Warp, and another point for Warp. So Warp wins because it has 2.5 points, whereas Windsurf has 1.5. Even give Warp half a point here because it's very subjective. And then we have 2 points for Warp, which still takes the first place. I hope you enjoyed this comparison, and if you have any questions or ideas or thoughts, feel free to leave them in the comments.